and roll.
Oh, I love that.
Good.
One in Bob.
Very good. History club.
The History Club
Hi, Mom.
and the Tom Newman family.
The Tom Newman.
Got the youngsters here.
That's right.
Yes, I am here. Yeah.
Welcome all.
Yeah, thanks.
So we're here bright and early, so any place you want to sit.
Matt, you starting to work this week or next week?
I work starting on Monday.
Next Monday.
How are you?
Are you a school teacher also?
No, I'm a nurse.
Oh,
I've been on.
How are you?
What's been happening? You were having a big party at your place yesterday. Whose birthday was it?
It wasn't anyone's birthday.
I am.
It's not the kind of
Well,
job. you do.
substitute happy hour.
After,
Oh, what the
What
heck
was
is that?
that?
After what?
after the group meeting, which is what
You have
Oh.
what the meeting was about. I didn't
A
go.
Sunday?
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
Okay.
you're right. No, we was just after the card game after the
well, whatever.
Sunday afternoon. What they call it.
I don't know.
Card-
But,
card,
yeah.
Anyway, so somebody does it every Sunday afternoon.
Okay, fun.
Hey, Bob.
Hi, how you doing? Great.
Keeping me busy.
Pardon me?
They're keeping me busy.
I would hope so.
Think you perfect.
Are you staying busy?
She had that for the meeting now.
Busy enough. Yeah.
Are you all traveling at all anymore
We
for the
don't,
summer?
not summer wise, October,
Oh,
we're going up to
New England
New England,
to visit someone or to
just to,
see the leaves?
just see the leaves and
Are you gonna do
see
your,
the water.
yeah,
We're driving
do your
along.
own thing or are you going with a group?
No, well, yes, we are going on with the bus tour. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Yeah.
Which part of New England you go?
The, one that's advertised,
Yeah, it's one, get the group.
me too.
We went on one with them this summer
And,
down to Savannah,
yeah, Charleston.
Charleston, Savannah, Beaufort,
Yeah.
Savannah,
Yeah.
and then down around there.
Yeah, and everything was good. I've
It was
traveled
good.
with them.
It was good. That's a nice group.
Okay.
Well planned.
Oh, good.
And you need, anybody needs
Yeah,
a break,
I know, that's a problem.
other than the normal breaks. So
Yeah.
you get a restroom call when those.
Yeah.
Just the overview that
Nice
Tom
restroom
put
on the
together.
buses.
Oh,
The buses are beautiful.
wonderful. Oh, so good to hear.
Well, thank you, dear. Appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Okay, what's up? Oh, stuff on the back as well.
You have a pen I could borrow,
Bill,
or a pencil,
come on, sit down.
or never mind.
Guys?
I know those guys.
Did you do the
Well, this
next
is
one?
the
Pardon me?
Tom's family is back here, so
No, I didn't.
Oh.
I went to
They
the
need to
meeting, but I didn't go to
Oh,
That's the reading gallery.
that's right.
I
Okay, I'll
forgot
have to
to- I
confess.
forgot to sign
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. There
Forgot to
will not
confess.
be a test.
I'll take my notes and then I'll pass it to you.
Oh, okay.
Unless Tom decides to.
I don't think I'm gonna need to take it.
Yeah, this is just a list of the.
That's right.
Would be sort of covering. Be like a few.
I'm not gonna cover in the order listed, so you can forget the order.
Oh,
I might take it back from you if we run short. Yeah. You good?
That's calculated. Anything is within that.
That's my daughter and granddaughter
oh.
with daughter's husband.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever use
And
one
what
of
was
these?
this occasion?
I have no idea. I'll have to look it up.
It was just a fancy.
You talk about the split stick or joint it? Yeah, slip stick. I thought it was a slip stick.
Oh, you got the slide
Like with
ruler?
that, wherever they were.
Did you bring the slide ruler, otherwise known as the slip stick?
Slip stick.
We get tongue tied very easily on it.
Oh, nice. But yes, yes. Oh, was that the wedding?
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
Or the after weddings,
party,
the day
yeah,
after that. That's Mark is my daughter's husband.
This one?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That must be.
Your granddaughter?
Oh, yeah. You're right.
That's daughter and granddaughter there.
Oh, fine, yeah.
Did you?
She's 20.
This is Bob.
Pretty common.
Yeah.
Still in college.
Yeah.
She's from
Issues.
some
Yes, gorgeous.
Hey, how are you, Jen?
That's like, looks like a happy event. Oh, that was lovely.
Well, you can sit anywhere else, or just have some guests there.
Yeah, look at that, yeah.
And I understand that side isn't as good because there's a glare from.
Wow.
Let's see what that is. Meyer, Trudy Meyer. Wedding celebrating house. His daughter. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Here's,
He's an ER physician. Hardworking, but a really nice guy.
yeah.
They live in San Diego.
Oh, okay. So they have avoided most of the rains and winds
Yeah,
and snow and
This is-
fire.
Beautiful couple.
I love it.
You wouldn't know she was 51.
No, you would not.
Now, are you guys from the,
His daughter, I think.
you guys from the? Good car.
Granddaughter, grandmother, his side of the family.
Well, I just heard that there was a group coming from there.
No problem, I'm kind of, the road's on its way to the beach, so it's.
So do they live
Okay.
in Oregon?
Fort Oil,
No, they live in
well,
San Diego.
represent.
Oh, that's fine.
Not sure, it might be best.
That's gotta be north, so
Yes,
they're in
Yeah.
Oregon or someplace.
Okay, right.
Hood River, Oregon.
okay, so is that Mount
Okay, we'll
Hood?
sit wherever.
Hood River.
I know, but where is Mount Hood? Isn't that such a place?
Probably right there, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to wonder.
Well, I don't know, it's 25 after. Yeah, go do that. Say, hey, if you ever want to win Scrabble ever again, you'll cooperate. Here's a list of some of the topics that. And one, I've got some history here, just an update. One, I need more speakers to volunteer. If you know anybody that's got a story that has history or science or otherwise you're gonna get stuck with the school teacher at the meeting. You know, that could be painful, so. That would be me too. I can't. Well, maybe we can do it together. We're gonna be showing another film on 8/14. We're gonna finish the national parks that everybody has really enjoyed. But I have to say, the finale is almost the best. So, we have about an hour left on those. And, he does, Ken Burns does an amazing job. And then the last 2 weeks of the month, the last two film Wednesdays, are gonna be the Roosevelts. That's also done by Ken Burns. I can see he does everything beautiful.
That both protocols, Teddy and Franklin.
Teddy Franklin and Eleanor.
You know,
And, he doesn't do it by one or the other. He kind of, the way he does it. Hi, how you doing? Welcome. Are we waiting?
no,
No, we didn't start yet, but we'll probably wait a couple extra minutes. Here's the food. Hi, guys. welcome. This is, I have a review of the different topics that on this. You can see, you just. I missed your look at your face. No, the next, I don't want you to. And this is large rituals, that is. That was the present. Okay. All right, so I have the national security. I don't get a chance to read them, but I have, I'm collecting.
You can cover women, but.
Yeah, annoying, I know, I can't. I can do it. Bob, for some magazines to share related to history. After the talk, if you're interested in borrowing them or,
We'll wait for you.
okay. I also, September 9th. No, on September 4th, I'm going to show a film on the Korean War from YouTube. And it's amazing what they cover in an hour. And then, the next meeting, 9/9, be covering the Korean War. I don't think we have any Korean War veterans around that want to talk a whole lot, but if you know anybody, I would love to get some more Korean and Vietnam vets to come and talk with us. And, the other thing I would recommend, is letters, if you have letters from Vietnam, from family members or friends that were there, that served, I think it'd be kind of nice to share those stories, so. Right. Usually it's a good idea to wait an extra minute or two, because we all run a tight ship around here, it's a problem around here, there's so many things to do, and it's hard to watch your time and.
You're not prompt anything except happy hour.
The hour's a good thing, as long as it only lasts an hour. This is, no. Oh, yeah. Right, we have some extra chair. I asked you to just chair right there. Yeah, we do have some others. Yeah.
I don't know if you said my
Sit
mark.
next to her. Yeah, for him to carry it. Right. All right. We're talking about the Mylar,
Yeah,
wondering where
I'll keep going over. Okay. At the end, I'm gonna do show and tell and we'll go around the tape, figure out.
I told Tom, we're kind of like kids, we like to look at stuff and touch stuff. Yeah.
All right, you ready to get going? Let me introduce myself. I know most of you, Tom Newman. Here since consent, with every moment. First, I want to start by thanking Diane and Ed. I don't think I could pull this off without their help, and I appreciate that very much. Diane also appreciates you leading the history club. Fun job. Thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed it.
And I'm gonna be following this because if I didn't, goodness knows where my brain would wander once it's all the regulations. Let me start with a short story about engineering. This fine, talented, smart engineer unfortunately passed away when he went up to Heaven's Gate, knocked on the door. He said, "What's your name?" And they looked at the list, sorry, you're not here, you gotta go down below. So he went down below, was let in. After a couple of days, he said, it's too dark. And he set out to find out where all the utilities were. He went in, and within a week and a half, he had air going around, and that was good, but then he was unhappy with the fact you could only get hot water. So he went around and everywhere, and he found where the water was, and made cool water as well. Being an industrious engineer, he poked around and fixed things up pretty good. Within about 5 or 6 months, everything was nice down there. Then there was a knock on the door. God was there, and Satan said, what do you want? He says, I want my engineer back. He said, you cannot have him. I need my engineer. Sorry, you can't have it. He says, well, I'll sue you. And Satan says, where are you gonna get the lawyers? For any lawyers in the room, I apologize, but Satan made me do it. So if you have any questions, I'll honor short questions, and if I know the answer, I'll let you know. And if I don't know the answer, I'll make it up. And there's a short story around that. When my son was around 9 or 10, he asked me questions. I said, I don't know. He said, but Dad, you got to know this stuff. And from then on, I've given an answer whether I know it or not. So I'm going to start going through. I read an article in Smithsonian Magazine here about the Apollo program that was written in 2019, which is the 50th anniversary of it. And I learned a lot of stuff about that. So I'm going to start out by going some of the real interesting facts about the Apollo program. And for those of you who went to the movie last week, some of this will be repetitious, but anyway. Things we didn't know about going to the moon or didn't have. We didn't have any rockets capable of getting anything up there. We had no computers. I mean, the computers we used were a room full of stuff with reels going around, with punch cards that if you put them in a rack, maybe in a day or two, you get an answer. So that doesn't work on the moon. You need real-time computers making real-time decisions. They had none of that. They didn't have computer chips. They didn't have spacesuits. They had things that some astronauts wore, but none that you could bounce around on the moon. They had no ship that could take you and land you to the moon and take you back up again. They didn't have the moon car to go drive around on. And there were no tracking stations to be able to talk to the people on the moon. So we're really in the Stone Ages when we started this. And in 9 years, what they accomplished, tools they had, was fantastic. Some of the other things we didn't know, a lot of questions about the dust on the moon. And nothing was really known about its size, its depth. There were some people who worried about that if astronauts stepped on it, it may be so deep that they would sink in it. The astronauts, when they finally got out, were tracking the moon dust around everywhere and actually back into the module with them. And when they got in there, and it smells like wet. Neil Armstrong said it smells like wet ashes, and Buzz Aldrin said it said like a fire stack cracker. Went off. So, and there's some chemists that had warned them that the dust had been vacant from oxygen for who knows how long, and what would happen when exposed to oxygen? Would it burn? So what the astronauts did was to take a small bag of dust and went back in the lunar module. And as they cranked on the air very slowly, they watched it. That's when they started to get the smells. But the dust was so irritating to them. They slept that one night they were there. They slept in their spacesuits because the dust was so. You know, they said one said it smelled like ashes, and the other one said it smelled like a burnt firecracker. By the time it got back to the Earth, it had no smell. The oxygen was active. Bear with me. Okay, what we did, we built, to get up there, we built the fastest, most nimble computer in the world at the time. One in the command module and one that was put together by some women that took wires and cemented, built it over, did it piece by piece. Heat shield, and these heat shieldings were attached to the lunar module with caulking guns. 3 parachutes on top of the return plan to let you back to Earth. There were 3 women that were trained how to hold it properly so it would open every time, and only 3. They were so important they wouldn't let them ride in the same car together. That engine was the first rocket engine in space that was variable in speed. It was going to the moon at the last time before it landed, it was like 40% capacity. Very throttle on it. And if anybody's seen the movie Numbers about those women down in, oh no, they were here in Richmond. Down in Hampton, yes, but anyway, they computed all the trajectories that were needed. I mean, didn't even use the computer. These women were very sharp, very impressive. There were 17 Apollo missions and 12 of them manned. The module, 14 of them were made, 10 were flown. Cost of all those lunar modules was $1.6 billion. That was the dollars back in the 60s. Spacesuits were made by Playtex, same people that make bras. They were stitched together by hand for 21 layers of nested fabric. They were strong enough to stop micrometeorites. And when Buzz Aldrin was jumping around on the moon, people that made this says, no, 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 because they said we fell and punctured it, they were gone. The first year when this program started, the cost was $1 million per year. When they ended, it was $1 million every 3 hours. The speed on the way to the moon was 24,000 miles an hour. They went 6 miles in a second. Now, while they were going, figure module, this gangly looking thing is going here. The sun's coming this way with lots of heat. Then space over here. Very cold. Can everybody hear me? Okay. So what they did to keep this side from burning and this side from freezing, they rotated. They call it the barbecue mode. And so switch to it. And get up here, point out some parts of this, the actual picture that you got here. Yeah, no, the picture of the model. Yeah, that one. So I'm going to talk a lot about this ladder here because I had to solve problems. And I'm going to talk about the insulation. Those were the 2 problems I had to work on. This is the ascent stage. This is the descent stage. These are the legs they stand at, and below those legs, when they landed, there was a 6-foot rod on 2 of those. Touched the moon first, and that let the astronauts know that they made contact and get shut the engine down. It collapsed. There's rocket engines on all 4 quadrants, and there's 4 little rockets there. So left, right, up, and down. And so they can steer while in space or wherever with those rockets. Unfortunately, you got hot gas coming out of that. So you had something called a plume deflector, which is really a fancy slide. Direct the gas away from the side. I had to do some testing on it. I worked for Grumman Aerospace. They made the lunar module. And
Okay.
So the next thing I want to do is I want to make neophyte thermodynamic engineers. I written up there the word thermodynamics. Below it, I wrote heat transfer, same thing. Heat moves from hot to cold. And there's three components of heat. There's conduction, convection, radiation. Pretty simple, right? Really not. Let me start with conduction. Conduction is a function of the material. Like copper conducts very well, whether it's bricks and dough. But you gotta know what materials you work. You have to know their conductivity. Makes it worse is if it's solid, you know what it is. But if they're touching each other, well, how hard are they touching each other? Screwed together or just barely touching? That's some of the art that you learn by trial and error. And after working on this stuff for a while, you got to guess it's just 60% or 20% or whatever. You need to feel for it. So there's a lot of artsy stuff that you need. So convection obviously is gases flowing over a surface. And there the difficulty is, well, how rough is the surface? Rougher it is, there's something called a boundary layer, which is the distance between full speed gas and the surface. Rougher it is near the boundary layer, and the significance of that is it slows down the heating. So a smooth surface heats very fast, and a rough surface takes longer. You've got to know what the speed is and what the surface takes. Now on radiation, well, you got to know what's the absorptivity and reflectivity. Those are the two components. And with lunar dust, we didn't know, so I had to guess. 3.98. We figured it would absorb most of the sun's energy, but that was a sheer guess until we.
Was the guess correct?
Pretty darn close. Pretty darn close. Good enough for government work. So the next thing you got to worry about thermodynamics is what are the sources of heat, because everything's going. In this case, the lunar module sources of heat are, while they're landing, you've got those little rocket engines on the side of it, plus you've got the big rocket engine on the descent stage, hitting the lunar module, the dust, and picking back up again and heating the sides. You've got something called the sun up there, brightly shining on it, and also hitting the lunar surface, heating that up, bouncing off. We had to count for all those factors and put together a model of how to calculate how hot things would get up there. Sources of heat is one of the problems you have to figure out what to do. So the insulation, got a couple of test blankets that were used in the test down in Houston, Texas. Vacuum chamber. About that in a little bit. This one has a plastic called Kapton on the outside. Kapton is whole chain plastic that takes high temperatures. You can stay at like 450. Definitely it goes high as 1299 degrees for short periods. Made by DuPont. That's used in space programs and other high temperature programs. That's my law.
But does that material then have the heat?
Right.
Does it to change the heat at one side is hot and the other side is cold? How does it just handles the heat?
Well, it heats it, but once it's hotter than the layer below it, it's going to, those hot atoms are going to try to get the ones below it as hot as they are. So it's going to transfer heat until everything's at heat.
Okay.
So there's like 27 layers in all. So the mylar on the back is coated with shiny aluminum. Reason is get rid of the problem of radiation, so it doesn't radiate from one next. You've got shiny surface. Yeah, that's the shiny surface. So when they made the blankets, they had to punch holes in it every once in a while, actually put a patch over it, hopefully 27 lane. Reason is when it got into the, out of the atmosphere, up into dead space, you had to get room for the gas to get out of there. Otherwise, you're gonna have balloons. Pretty sharp, those guys. Um, Look on the inside. But, so let me start with my story. With, my story starts 1968. Just graduated on Stevens Institute of Chemical Engineering. Able to get a job at Grumman Aerospace. While at Grumman, I worked at 3 programs, one lunar module, one EA6B, which is the electronic countermeasures plant. Under the wings, there are 4 pods. Each pod has microwaves in it that used to jam the radar. So each of those pods had a propeller in front. The job was to drive air conditioner. Had to calculate how hot the surfaces and stuff got. What those been fun projects. The other one was the F-14. And appropriately enough, they named it after me, the Tomcat. So, it, of course, was in Top Gun. The remarkable plane. I remember when Grumman was still testing that plane, the test pilot came in the airport at where I worked in Bethpage. Came in low with the wings out. This plane can hold the wings. Float fly over, and then he came back with wings back. Got right over us in the tail stage. First plane that could go vertical, just like a rocket. And I got chills watching. It was just amazing. Have you? Amazing back in the day. Back in the Top Gun, you've seen it. That's great. You were bad. You had to be excited, wasn't it? That's cool. So yeah, during that period, I joined. Nixon was running for president against Humphrey. We had a little thing called the Vietnam War going on. Guess what? Demonstrations. Just like today. Top song that year was Hey Jude, the Beatles. So popular was This Guy's in Love with You. And then top groups were the Beatles, Simon and Garfunkel, Led Zeppelin, Theo. Aretha Franklin, thank you. Good to say.
Somewhere in there.
I got started working at Grumman. I showed up the first day and was shown to my office, which was a gray desk. The next one was that gray desk with another gray desk. That one was a gold desk. Back in front, back, as I looked, 4 desks. 4 desks. So that was my space. I had a desk with drawers and got this much desks. That's what they had. Had no calculators. This was my calculator.
Time, like,
Yeah. We had one of those big funky computers talked about. So when I worked on a problem, I had to go punch card, put it in the place, and hopefully to get it done. Punch cards, I spent as much time punching cards as I did figure out the problems. This is what we had to draw. I was going to make a chart graph. All by hand, no computer to make the graphs for you. Had to write things by hand and give it to a secretary to make. I brought some memos that I wrote that are over there, and you're free to look at afterwards. Kind of things that are on there. Okay. Now I'll talk some of the studies I did. Materials capped on. I'm almost there. Give me about 10 more minutes if we can.
That help you?
What's that?
The D and E.
College, that was the only course I got a D on. Of course, I blamed the professor about that. I ended up, while I was working at Grumman, going to NYU 2 times a week from Bethpage, Long Island, in the 10th Convent Avenue. So there I got a master's degree.
I'll show them. You made a master's degree in heat transfer?
Sure.
How? You need to go to school again? Oh, yeah.
What are you gonna do with that?
You was busting great.
Well, let me talk about
Fair play.
what the program is.
39.6.
This is a cutaway of the descent stage. Just to show you what's inside, those tanks will contain fuel, gas, oxygen, all kinds of stuff inside of the descent stage, so it's packed. And one of the problems they had is they were worried that when the ascent stage took off, that was its platform to take off from. So it's got an engine with hot gas going right under the top of this. Well, if there's still fuel there, that could blow up. So they wanted to know how long this Kapton would last. To do that, had to figure out how to measure that. So I'm going through this, of course, the engine puts out gas that's extremely hot. That was it. So I knew this stuff was gonna burn in a second or so. If you use a thermocouple, thermocouples are made of 2 dissimilar metals. They touch each other, the atoms, those 2 things don't agree with each other, so they can make a small minimal voltage, so they can measure that. And that voltage changes with temperature. Combinations of metal, people that have way too much time on their hands have computed that. Temperature. So I decided that what we needed is to get a very, very thin layer of 2 metals. So on the board there, I drew bell jar, this guy. What you do with a bell jar is you throw a vacuum on it. The top, okay, that orange line. On the right is the top of what it does. Bottom is a crucible, and in the crucible, first attempt we put copper in there, heated it. Now in a vacuum, metal will go to a gas. So it blew up and it coated the section. Part of it was masked off. So ended up with a very, very, very thin layer of copper on one end. Next, we took nickel and put it, heated that, it also done it. Other part. Now there was an overlap junction where that hashing is. That's where the thermocouple effect was. Now I had some pictures that had around. That shows you what those things look like. Problem was, okay, this is nice. You got this thin piece of plastic with overlap there. How do you connect to it? So you need an old stapler. I took the wire with the stapler, plugged it in. And then what we did, back in the bell jar, through a vacuum, there's something called an overlap, which gets hot, instantly very hot. Over the measured how quickly it would burn through the Kapton. 0.7 seconds. After doing a couple of experiments, it was roughly about a second, and turned out they had enough layers of Kapton that they were comfortable with. That was take the ladder, erase this. This is real quick. ladder is very, very thin metal. When they started, the outside of the ladder, which is hollow, was 0.045 inches. So that's pretty darn small. In the middle was a honeycomb just to give it some strength. So this is the way you'd solve a problem like how hot does it get? Here's the aluminum, right? So you have to make a model of what you're going to try to solve the temperature for. The way you do this is you divide it into sections like this. Being a creative engineer like I am, I had to label each. I had everything. So guess what? Voila, number one, number two, number three, and so on. Each of those got labeled. Then you had to figure, well, how much heat is going into each of those sections? This one may get the direct sunlight, but get hardly any of the heat flow. So each of these you had to assign a heating value, how much they got. And then you started it where this thing was roughly, well, the ladder on the moon is typically 200 degrees. So you started at that temperature. Say when it's landing, how hot can it get? Started at a temperature of 200 degrees, and then the computer will do something every 10th of a second, move heat from one segment to the next based on its heating. Keeps doing that until everything's in equal. Finally get the final value. All right, the last thing I'll talk about is I had to figure out whether this needs to be capped on or not, or in how many layers. To do that, we went into Houston, a vacuum chamber, huge chamber. They pulled the vacuum on it, and to make sure they got everything else, they had liquid helium in the wall, did it all the way down. You could actually see oxygen coming out of the wall. We had a 1/10 scale of blue hydrogen there, even with the rockets. We had sensors all over, temperature sensors, all thing. Fire the rockets, we collected the data, used that data to say how much heat is going to each quadrant of that and the design, got components. I kept them busy for 3 years with all these fine tools I had to work. Any questions? Oh, no, let's go through the things you don't know. Yeah. Ran across this article I thought was interesting. Oh, yeah, this is the assembly stage. It also has got lots of stuff on the inside. That's interesting. I've got this article in this magazine. Anybody interested in reading it? There was stuff on the article. Thanks. $8 million. Got the number two.
Number two.
That's all right. I don't know when.
You go back in?
That's all right. We don't need a number two. Yeah. For the Apollo. They had a spark on this particular Apollo program. Those pedals burned up.
Yeah, they could have been out.
On Apollo 7 one and Eagle one. They transmitted their pictures. Next one in. Neil Armstrong was not handpicked for Apollo 11. I talked about the bra company making the suits. Was struck by lightning twice. I saw that in the movie. Astronaut conducted secret ESP experiment. Yeah.
It's for sensory perception.
I mind that. One time they asked astronauts for
They stopped doing that, they found that they didn't need to.
the last time Apollo 15 left the work of art there. Those are pretty interesting. Well, let me go around the table and talk. Yes, Ed would describe this as it's fine.
Oh. Some of us back in the late sixties and early seventies were members of Franklin Mint. Might remember that? Well, if you were a member of the Mint, they did is they got a small amount of silver, and put it on the Apollo 4 mission, came back down. They smelted it, distributed this coin memory. This coin is actually, a good part of this coin is actually in space. Apollo 4. They sent me a nice certification thereof, and blew it right up and leave it on a table for you. I thought by now it'd be worth about $10,000.
But you'd be willing to sell it. One thing I forgot to mention, for all the Apollo missions that landed on the moon, they carried back 846 pounds of dust and not rocks, so. Yes, this is right. This is one of the test blankets that we down to the U.
Pass it around.
Thinking. It's easy. Get up and measure temperature. Well, no, this is there, and then we fire the engines, the gas from the engines, sides of these, and these have thermocouple.
Yeah,
Actually, all the blankets have about 27.
that was enough.
So they have to stop radiation. That's made out of this Kapton. This is mylar. The underlayers are all mylar. It's only the surface layer stuff is. Well, it can stay at 450 degrees indefinitely and then go Fahrenheit, but it can go up as high as 1299 degrees for short periods of time. Right. This is. That's US coaches set. This over here is, I was in a backup mission support investigation, oh no, sorry. And that's me at all 5 years old, sitting there listening, headphones on. My job was to monitor, guess what, temperatures.
Or if you're here there. Looks like it's dark brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was fun. Actually, I was there late shift, so the astronauts were sleeping, trying to form. When they woke them up, every day they woke them up with a different sound of music, so they didn't know what they're gonna wake up to. They would laugh at any time. But it was just fun listening to the chat when they were out on the moon. Stuff like that. Next one is, one day I showed up for work and on a big table, chart on the wall right there. And you can pick it. This was on a table, they put all the engineers there, didn't sign it, which we did. And they took a picture of microfiche, people remember this. How you save documents back then. They sent it to the moon, back again, expanded again, then they made this post graphic, a signature. Up here, bring this around, signature. This is a ball, so you can actually see.
What inspired you to go into it, the skills like this?
Well, I wanted to be a chemical engineer, but then, I mean, we had a thing called Vietnam. I went here, and how they picked me to go in the thermodynamics group. Once there, I decided, well, let's.
Thank you.
Honestly,
Yeah, I mean, was it
back then, yeah. I don't know, you know, one of the things I didn't talk about, with the group of people I worked with, all the young women, and we worked hard, but we played hard. We go to Bethpage Golf Course at like 6 in the morning, play 9 holes, play touchback football afterwards. Actually, I learned to play bridge very well. At lunchtime, we played a bridge game called Swiss Team of Four, where people play against 4 people. This table, your peers playing east-south, and at that table is playing northwest. So for the rest of the afternoon, after we're done playing lunchtime, we were talking about what was the best way to play that hand. And if you do that every day for 2 years, you'll learn a hell of a lot about picture of a little blanket. Never went to college. Company that made carbon paper and typewriter. He ended up director of the laboratory and ended up with 2 patents. Okay, so over here, picture this. This is not the first one. Impressive. The Apollo mission. Ready? Take down. Yes. And I'm not. Okay. Where they ride. Yeah. So they only sit in the afternoon. And see this gray spot here? This was their dormitory. That area. Not very big at all.
8 by 8 or 6 by 2?
That's what. Yeah. I made up my head. Well, they had gravity on the moon. Six of the US, I mean, of the Earth's gravity, but yeah, by now. 2 there and 1 in the command module. Neither.
If you would have had Google back then.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, he taught me all kinds of things that were sketchy now.
No, that's way came off the production line. That would have waited. I guess he could have put it as a movie. One guy on my board. That's what it is. And they came up with a mass production. By staying for it. Right, yeah. All right, I'm done.
Can you tell us what, over there?
Here?
Right there,
Like what?
no, the, in the frame?
Yeah. So that's a patch for one of the Apollo, every Apollo program, every Apollo program, has their own patch. Was for Apollo 17, the last mission.
Is that the one you probably spent the most time working on?
Well, actually, by 17, I've been done, because every time they made a modification of the exterior construction of the lunar module, I had to redo, that's why I did the liner 3 times. First time, 0.04 or 5 inches wasn't thick enough there. Based on some of the calculation, weight was everything, so it was in every aspect.
And yeah. It could hold this up. So you mentioned that the any part is where the actor,
The top part, right, yes.
and this is the section that propels
Thick
the
was- Yep,
module up.
yep, when they leave. I was supposed to be on the movie 50, so that thing got out of there quick, it was booming.
The movie was very good in helping to understand. What's the name of the movie?
Journeys of
Journeys of Apollo, and it's from YouTube, so anybody can
You
get
go on
it.
there, you go watch it. Oh,
But that module, they go together and they come out.
no, that's the way they are,
Just like that.
just like that,
And it comes down like this and
that's it.
That's what you're behind.
Only, and spacecraft, it didn't have to fly in an atmosphere, they could have all the things hanging out.
Journeys of Apollo.
Yep.
YouTube.
You know, Tom and I were talking the other day, I commented that there was, in Grumman, there was lots and lots of engineers trying to solve problems. No idea if there were missions that were completely unknown, how they were able to do that. Man on the moon, it's incredible.
And it worked. The interesting thing is, of course, JFK was the motivator for it, but then he was shot in 63. And reading this article in the magazine, they said politics of it began to wander, people began to lose attention. And they had some people in Congress wanted to use. After he was shot, Johnson was a strong advocate, he used the monitor doing this for King. And his motivation was to beat the Russians, because up to then the Russians had beat us everywhere. He wanted to get. Actually, 2 days before our first landing, the Russians had Moon 18. They wanted to land, not unmanned, but it was up there. They wanted to land ahead of us. They were having problems figuring out where to land on the moon, and they tried to. Moon 18 hit a mountain.
Was manned or not manned?
It was not manned.
What's the date of this?
On which one? Oh, it's 2019. Here, you can borrow it if you want. Write down my room number. When you're done, you can put on the C101. Because you already work in. No.
Didn't talk about.
Did you have to get security? Yes, I had to get security. Clearance, right.
Has anybody in your family followed in your?
I've got 2 boys, both engineers, one is chemical engineer, health industry. Chemical engineer. Thank you.
What's he doing in the health industry?
company called United Therapeutics. Pigs, so the special plant, where the baby pig, day is taken from the antiseptic area, so that they affected people, if they go in isolated.
The governor is also.
Use the pig.
Yeah, I took a. Yes. I have a art degree. And now I'm in French. I'm in French. Who knew, didn't pay.
I remember when you started, you went to James Madison, you know. And I don't know what to major with, it doesn't make any difference, you won't fit anyway.
So what's you do? Now I'm a nurse. I was an ER nurse for a while, and now I'm in cellular immunotherapy. FECU. It is. How about the altitude? Finding speed. December. Gonna go after the crook?
Yeah.
How about this young gentleman? Not yet?
He's the company that has to do with man.
It'll be, okay, well, he'll be able to do it. And what about mom? I'm the, oh, mom, yeah.
Medical technology.
Technical. He's in there.
Well, we didn't call it the dinner table. People in science.
What do you do in medical, where do you?
I specialize in genetics.
Not to mention, I mentioned there was a little residence here. Amazing, an engineer that talks.
And it's a really nice guy.
Unless you're, unless you're playing poker with.
Oh, yeah. He's not so nice. He's good at helping to take care of puppies. They short you the tricks. So amazing. Nice to see. Like I said, we're really very blessed in population. I'm hoping I can draw from some other smart people around here to share their experience, your experience. Like what, I can share my ER nurse experiences, but I don't think that. They're not historical, but they are fun. Funny. Maybe I'll get you a half an hour. Yeah.
You were in moon suits.
I was in business, yeah. My son was one of the club, basis of the club is residence. I know there's a lot of people for this work.
That's one of the things that since I've been here that I've really enjoyed is I talk to people one at a time. They all have wonderful stories.
Well, it is one of the advantages of being, you know, I haven't been in any other seat. All of them. It's amazing when you talk to people. Their background. Very impressive. To go in a whole year on just residents. Well, I'm interested in almost anything, especially when you're in the history. But I think people have personal, like Eileen, I don't know. These things, but she's doing something to. And one day I said to her, you know, that's